Hello bachcho, welcome back to our classes GLP. Students, today in this class we are going to solve some questions from 9th standard advanced mathematics, chapter number 2. Chapter name is sets. Here exercise number is 2.1. Students, in this class we are going to solve one of the very important question in this exercise, that is question number 4. Here question says that prove that number A is given, negation of P conjunction negation of Q is equivalent to P disjunction Q, and number B we have to prove that negation of P conditional negation of Q is equivalent to negation of P conjunction Q. Solution number 1, here we have to make a table. Here statements are P and Q, so we put here P then Q. After then, since we need negation of P and negation of Q, so therefore we write here negation of P, negation of Q. Next we need negation of P conjunction negation of Q, so therefore we write here negation of P conjunction negation of Q. Then since we need negation of P conjunction negation of Q, so therefore we write here negation of P conjunction negation of Q. Then last one we need P disjunction Q, that is P disjunction Q. Now first we let P is true, Q is also true, then negation of P will be false, negation of Q will also be false, false conjunction false, result will be false. Since this one is false, so negation will be true. Since P is true, Q is true, so therefore P disjunction Q will be true. Next we take P is true, Q is false, then negation of P will be false and negation of Q will be true. Since negation of P false, negation of Q true, so false conjunction true will be false. Negation of this one will be true. Since P is true, Q is false, so false disjunction true, true disjunction false will be true. Next we take P false, Q true, negation of P will be true and negation of Q will be false. Negation of P is true, conjunction negation of Q is false, so conjunction will be false. Since this one is false, so negation of this will be true. P is false, Q is true, so disjunction of P and Q will be true. Next we take P false, Q is also false, negation of P true, negation of Q is also true, so therefore negation of P disjunction conjunction negation of Q, it is true. Since this one is true, so negation of this one will be false. Since P is false, Q is also false, so disjunction of P and Q will be false. Now here you see the elements of column 6 and elements of column 7 are identical. That is here true, 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 then false, and column 7 elements of column 7 are true, 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 and then false. Now we write here, since the elements of column 6 and column 7 are same or identical, so negation of P conjunction negation of Q will be equivalent to P disjunction Q. Hence proved. Next number B, here we have to prove that negation of P conditional negation of Q is equivalent to negation of P conjunction Q. So for that we have to make a table that the statements are P and Q. Then we write here negation of P, then negation of Q, then negation of P conditional negation of Q, negation of P conditional negation of Q, then negation of P conditional negation of Q, negation of P conditional negation of Q, then negation of P conjunction Q. So here first of all we take our statement P is true, Q is also true. Negation of P will be false, negation of Q will also be false. Since negation of P false, negation of Q false, so conditional will be true. Since this one is true, so negation of this one will be false. Now negation of P is false and Q is true, so conjunction will be false. Now take P is true, Q is false, then negation of P will be false and negation of Q will be true. Since negation of P false, negation of Q is true, so conditional will be true. Since this one is true, negation of this one will be false. Now negation of P is false and Q is also false, so conjunction will be false. Next we take P is false and Q is true, then negation of P will be true, negation of Q will be false. Since negation of P true, negation of Q is false, so conditional will be false. Since this one is false, so negation of this one will be true. Now negation of P is true and Q is also true, so therefore conjunction will be true. Next we take P is false, Q is also false, negation of P true, negation of Q will be true. Then negation of P conditional negation of Q, it is true. Since this one is true, so negation of this one will be false. Now negation of P is true and Q is false, so conditional will be false. From the table we observe that the elements of column 6 and elements of column 7 are identical, that is same. So therefore we can say that negation of P conditional negation of Q is equivalent to negation of P conjunction Q. So we may write, from the above table we observe that each element of column 6 are identical with the corresponding elements. These are corresponding elements. So with the corresponding elements of column 7, so therefore we can write negation of P conditional negation of Q is equivalent to negation of P conjunction Q.